I want to talk about is defining scalable value proposition. So we've introduced what it means to have a go-to-market for AI products. We've talked about what the market understanding, analyzing your market, which means understanding your market, right, and segmenting it based on the customers that you want to, create a solution for. I think the next thing we want to talk about is how do we actually define what our value proposition is, right? And so you have a product. What value are you trying to bring to the market? And this is based off your differentiation, um, your how you differentiate from competition. So you base your value proposition off your differentiation strategy, is how I call it. And so a couple of things to note here. You need to have unique AI benefits, right? You need to have, and I'll go through this. You need to have consistent core messaging. You need to have measurable outcome integration, and you need to be able to adapt and scale. So a valuable value proposition clearly articulates the unique benefits of an AI product and how it solves specific problems. So you create a solution, you need to be able to clearly articulate what unique benefits you're bringing to the market, right? And what are the specific problems that this product or this solution is going to solve across different markets, right? So it must be adaptable to various customer segments. And so if you create your solution, it's advised that you adapt it to various customer segments. So for instance, you could have corporations, right? You could have profit-making businesses. So, and I keep using Shell as an example. I'm not Nigerian, so as one of, or maybe Airtel. Yeah, I know Airtel too is in Nigeria. So, how does your solution, um, how is it adaptable to that kind of company, and how is it adaptable to education, right? So, education is a place where AI is really essential, right? How is a solution adaptable to that segment? How is your solution adaptable to healthcare or, you know, public service? You need to clearly articulate what that value proposition is, what the unique benefits of your product is, and how it solves specific problems, right? And so while doing this, you have to ensure that you maintain consistency in your core messaging. You are looking at various markets or various customer segments, but you also need to ensure that you have consistent messaging across these customer segments, right? And so some of the key differentiators that you can use can be your accuracy, the accuracy in your product, your speed, your personalization, and your cost saving. So hey, you create a solution, I don't know what to call it, AI for, um, let's say you create a chat GPT like product, right? How accurate are your responses? How accurate is your output, right? Um, how fast does it bring out this response? Am I going to have to wait for 5 minutes to be able to get a response if I'm creating images or videos, right? And is it how much personalization does it do, and how much would it at the end of the day save cost for that customer segment? And so you need to be able to emphasize all of these, right? Additionally, these messaging pillars like trust, right? Because it's trust is a very key component in the AI business. Transparency, innovation. So these three things are very critical, especially in AI, where users may be skeptical about you using their data, you keeping their data, um, and how you use that to make decisions, right? And so the value proposition should also highlight how the product delivers measurable outcomes. So that's the third thing on this slide. How do you deliver measurable outcomes, and how do you integrate seamlessly with existing workflows? So You create a product or a solution for, let's say, healthcare, right? One of your customer segments is healthcare. But these hospitals or these healthcare providers already have existing workflows. They have existing documents or platforms for their accounting, platforms for their sales, platform for their finance, platform for, I don't know, human resource allocation, right? Within the organization. How does your product and your solution integrate seamlessly with what they already have? Because what you don't want is people having to move data from one place to the other. It's like, okay, hey, we have this new solution, but it cannot integrate with what we already have. And we have to literally copy, let's say, a document from point A, the existing solution, to the AI solution to say, hey, help me analyze this, help me do this. No, you want what you want is for your to seamlessly, integrate your product or your solution to what they already have. And one last thing on the third point is it needs to really evolve with user needs. Now, adaptability and scalability. And so by aligning the value proposition with customer pain points and the desired outcomes, you are able to really create compelling narratives that help resonate across different industries and different geographies, which would then help facilitate scalable growth. I know that went on for a while. Any questions before I go on to the next one?
Do we have any questions, anyone? If you have any questions, you can raise your hands. But Mr. Cedrick, no questions at the moment.
All right, sure, no worries. Thanks. And sorry, I have a quote, so you see me trying to adjust a little bit sometimes. So the next one is, so we've understood our market and our segment. We have understood how to create scalable, a scalable value proposition. What we want to do is, how do we create a scalable go-to-market framework? So the initial ones were just the pieces that are essential to creating that go-to-market framework, right? So you've understood your market, right? And who your customers are. You've tabled that. You've clearly articulated what your value proposition is. So those are essential to then creating the scalable go-to-market framework. And so for that, to build that scalable go-to-market framework, you need to have 4 key things, right? Product readiness, pricing strategy, distribution channels, and continuous improvement. So these 4 things come together to create that scalable go-to-market framework, right? You need to ensure that you have all these 4 things well tied and integrated to be able to bring that product or solution you've created and then take it to market. And so a robust go-to-market framework for scaling AI products include, like I mentioned, several components, which are the 4 that I've listed here. So product readiness, pricing strategy, distribution channels, and continuous improvement. And so the first one, which is product readiness, really involves ensuring that your product or your solution is compliant with regulation. It is scalable across different infrastructures, which is the example that I gave, right? And it's explainable to end users. So you create a product or a solution. Is it in the context of Nigeria? Because I am certain that most of our audience is Nigerian. What are the various regulations that kind of work around what you've created, right? Because you don't want to put something out there that goes against certain requirements in the market, whether government requirements or market specific regulations. So you need to ensure that that is worked through. You need to ensure that it is scalable across multiple infrastructures, right? So you need to look at existing infrastructures, right? You also need to consider what is available in your specific geographical context, because you cannot put something in market that your geographical context cannot support, right? And I don't know what a good example would be, but I don't think AI uses um, a lot of electricity. But and I know like I'm Ghanaian, so and I can make this joke without feeling too bad, but and I know like Nigeria would have like a lot of like electricity problems, right? And AI, you definitely if it's a big like ChatGPT, you're running on a lot of like data infrastructure, right? Which needs a lot of power, and that is worked through in without like actual electricity, right? But you need to look at your geographical context and see what infrastructure is available to support the product I'm putting out there. If there's any limitation with infrastructure, you need to understand how to fix that before you bring it out there. And lastly, on product readiness, your product needs to be explainable to the end user. If you meet a customer or the exact person who will be used, because sometimes your customer it will be different from your end user. An example, if you are creating a solution for a hospital, right? Your customer could be the technology guy in the hospital, right? So maybe the IT admin or the IT head of IT, that would be your customer, or the hospital will be your customer. But the end user is the guy, is that nurse or that front desk person or that doctor or that, I don't know what, like who else works in a hospital, but that would be your end user. And your product or your solution should be explainable and easily usable by that end user, right? Because if your end users cannot use it efficiently and effectively, then your customer is going to come back to you and say, hey, your product's not working. We cannot explain it to you, so end users. And so we want to, break our contract. The second thing is the pricing model, which is very important. You have a product. I mean, you're in business to make money, unless it's an NGO, right? You have a product. You want to be able to price in such a way that it supports growth, right? So is it gonna be a subscription based pricing, or is it gonna be a user based pricing? So subscription based pricing is, hey, I've created this product or solution. Um, you have to pay me per user, per end user. And so if there are, and I'll use an example of the hospital again. If there are 50 employees or users within the hospital, I'm going to charge, let's say, $5 per user. And so that would be $250 per month. So $5 per user per month, that would be $250 for that hospital per month, if there are 50 people in the hospital. And so that would be subscription based. You have a fixed price, which is based off the number of users. And then every month it's just simple math, right? And so every year that would be 250 times 12. Now there's usage-based pricing, which basically is you pay me based off how much the end users are using, or like I price this product based off how much end users are using. So if I'll use a hospital example again. Whatever product or solution you build, if let's say an end user, let's say a nurse who has to input like patient data and process that data across different existing platforms within a hospital, so that they can use that data and information to give good healthcare to patients. Maybe in a month they would use um, X percentage of data within your product or solution. And so based off how much the end user uses, you charge a price to that. So that's how subscription based is different from user based. For subscription based, it's like, hey, it's a flat fee. This is what I'm going to charge. This is what you're going to pay. Sometimes there may be maximum usage throttle points, but it's pretty much a fixed price, right? And it's as you in pricing, in using that pricing model, you need to assume the most use case for the customer, right? The other version is just usage-based pricing, where it's like, hey, I don't know how much customers are going to use. I don't want to think too much about it, but I'm just going to charge customers based on how much they use. And so this has to align with the customer's value. The third thing is distribution channels. And so distribution channels must be, they have to be diversified to include your direct sales. So you within like if it's let's say you have a business, a product, a solution, and it's a small business. Let's say it's a business of 10 people. 5 people are sellers, so they go out there to put to market and sell the product or solution to customers. So those are direct sales people, or you can even contract that out. You don't need to have that in-house, right? Say you go to a marketing firm and say, hey, I'm looking for 10 salespeople to sell this for me. So those are direct sales. You can have strategic partners, right? Where it's like you've identified people who um, have some similarities or are strategic to what you're doing, and then kind of like help them sell your products, right? As part of also what they are selling. Some of these strategic partners are not necessarily competitors. They're just people that are doing something that are associated with what you're doing and can help you put your product out there. So in terms of an AI product, it could be a company that's selling, um, I don't know, productivity platforms, and say, hey, you sell productivity platform. I have this AI product or solution. Can you sell this as part of your platform? And then we will have like a commission-based conversation. If you sell this, I give you this. I give you this commission. I give you this incentive, right? The last one is digital marketplaces, where you actually like have a website, you use social media, you create your own like online direct sales channel for customers. Um, and so this framework should also incorporate feedback loops for continuous improvement. So your product readiness, your pricing strategy, and your distribution channels should include feedback or incorporate feedback loops, so that to ensure that you are always improving, and it enables rapid onboarding and supports localization for global markets, right? And so by establishing clear processes and scalable infrastructure, companies can efficiently expand. So if you kind of like make sure work across these efficiently, you'll be able to really, really, really expand efficiently and expand your reach. You reduce your time to market, because you've done your homework, you've put all these things in place, and so your time to market is reduced. Versus if you don't actually take your time to go through this, right? And it helps you maintain quality and consistency across deployments. Um, we have a few more slides, and so you created your go-to-market strategy. You need to ensure that you are building trust at scale. And what does that mean? And so trust is really the cornerstone of, and I think I mentioned this earlier, it's really the cornerstone of successful AI adoption, especially when scaling across different markets, right? And so I think of trust with um, you know, 4 different buckets, right? So one of it is ethical AI and transparency, the regulatory compliance, certifications and audits, and customer education, right? So like I said before, trust is an essential cornerstone of essential successful AI adoption, especially when scaling across different markets, right? And so building trust involves addressing ethical concerns, which is the first one, ensuring transparency in decision making. It also involves, complying with like global regulations. There's the GDPR, there's the SOC2. You can go out to read this after the session. And so your marketing efforts, right, should communicate how your how your product or solution handles data responsibly, because it can be people's personal information that you may be using to, generate your output, or like, power your product or your solution, right? And so if your product or solution is feeding off that information, you need to be able to communicate to your marketing how you handle data responsibly, how you avoid bias, right? And how you provide explainable outputs. The third thing is you need to have certifications and third-party audits that can help reinforce credibility. So you go to a customer, they look at you and say, "Hey, oh, hey, how, um, what is your credibility?" Right? You can be able to rely on the fact that either yourself, the builder of the product, the solution, or your company has gone to, compliance audits or certifications, which reinforces your credibility. The last thing is customer education, right? And so you want to be able to use webinars, documentation, and support channels to help demystify your product. I mean, there's a lot of, like, people are not comfortable with, AI, because, like, hey, where's this data coming from? How is it using my data? And how am I sure it's safe? So you can use customer education to webinars. There's so many things you can do, right? It doesn't need to be like a formal webinar. It can be a Facebook Live, an Instagram Live. You can do a webinar if you identify like key audience, like we're doing now. Just create a link, send them, invite them to register for the webinar. Let them listen to you and educate them to help build confidence, right? And so once you do all of this, as the product scales and you're able to maintain consistent ethical standards and transparent communication, it becomes really increasingly important, and it helps foster long-term relationships too. That eventually helps you mitigate risk associated with deploying AI or AI-led products or solutions. So the next thing it will be to discuss the marketing tactics for like key marketing tactics for scalable growth, right? And so, how do you execute scalable marketing tactics, right? And there are key things that you can do, right? These scalable marketing tactics are really essential for reaching a broad audience if efficiently, right? And so the first thing is content marketing, right? And it's kind of like a follow through from customer education, but it's a more broader marketing tactic. You create a more broader marketing tactics just outside of customer education. Customer education is just one part of it, right? So the first one will be content marketing. And so this could include thought leadership articles, where it's like, hey, you are the expert in this product or this solution. You've created this product or this solution. You can go on LinkedIn and like have a really concise thought leadership article, or a post. Make it on LinkedIn because it's a professional network and you can find customers there. Or you could like write blogs to explain what you're creating, the product or the solution you're creating, and how it can help solve customer problems. You can also use case studies and white papers. Those are like a little bit more formal and for like more advanced customers. But if your product or solutions are for like small businesses like hospital, they won't have time to read case studies or white papers. They're essential. You should have them if you have the time. But especially with attention span being really short these days, you want to be able to like use very sharp and quick methods for your content marketing, and it could be you know videos or ads, however you want to just create your content, right? And so this helps establish authority and educate potential customers. The second thing will be events and webinars. And I think we touched a little bit on webinars on a previous slide. But these events and webinars could provide interactive platforms to showcase your product capabilities and address concerns, right? You could also use paid campaigns and automation. So some examples of paid campaigns include targeted ads. So Instagram does a lot of targeting. Instagram and Facebook. I think TikTok does a lot of targeted ads. And so, how do you leverage these platforms to, identify your key users or your key customers, right? Maybe that hospital is not on TikTok, but maybe the head of IT of that company watches TV, right? Or they are in town, so they see a billboard, or they go to the malls in Nigeria, so you have small flyers, right? That they can get pick up, or like being like they can be given, and they can say, oh, hey, I got a flyer from X company that says they can provide a solution to help us fix some of the data challenges you're having in the hospital. So they reach out to you, and there you go, you have business. So you do your targeted ads, but you also have to retarget, right? Because your target audience keeps changing. You need to be ensure that you are retargeting and ensure that you're either closing your target or expanding it, right? Because you need to be also be very sharp on who you target. And so these can be automated, right? Um, Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, like they all have very automated target audience, and there are even email campaigns that you can use for target audience optimization. And um, so then the next one will be leveraging marketing automation tools to as part of the target audience to enable consistent messaging and efficient lead nurturing. And so you want to always be consistent in your ads, right? It's like you don't say one thing here and say the other thing here. So once you apply automation, everything is just consistent, and it's more efficient for customer nurturing. The last one will be social media and influencer partnerships, right? And so these can, and I'm sure most of you understand what that means, right? Use leveraging social media and leveraging influencers, are people that others are excited to see or hear from, right? And so you can identify maybe Instagram or Facebook or TikTok influencer who likes to work on or talk about technology, or has a technology background, or is being followed for sharing technology facts, right? So you can partner with this person to amplify your reach, right? But while doing that, you can localize your campaigns to ensure that they are relevant in different regions, right? And so if you're in Nigeria, and maybe the influencer you find is in the US, um, they that the regional context there is different from the regional context back home in Africa, right? And so if you find someone there, how do you localize your content to your target audience if your target audience is African or Nigerian? So that's really important, because when I when I
Sorry.
when I when I'm targeted and I read your companies, I need to be able to understand what it's saying. So by combining these tactics with data-driven insights, companies can refine their strategies, improve conversion rates, and support scalable growth.
Yeah, Mr. Cedric.
Yeah. Hi.
Uh, so regarding localization, could you
Mhm.
probably also give an instance or basically like a scenario of
Mhm.
what this means? Because fine, in design, we have localization of contents, localization of maybe of a website. And to us, what it means is that if a visitor from the Netherlands, for example, visits your website, localization is that you make that website available to them in Dutch,
Yeah.
right? But when it comes to marketing and this, the content that you've just explained, what is localization in that sense?
That's a really good question. Um, I think that localization in that sense is just your original context. So if you're Nigerian, what do you think your audience want to hear? They want to hear about, hey, the recent thing. So for instance, if let's say something happens within healthcare, right, in Nigeria, right, and there's a recent healthcare trend, right, is your influencer able to take that trend and use that to create localized content or like relevant content for your audience within that period of time, right? And so it could be based off trends. It could be based off what matters to your audience. So automation on websites is easy. You just have to toggle on and off and you have like a different language. But localizing for marketing, especially influencer marketing or social media marketing, requires that you always have relevant context to what's happening in that specific geography
Okay,
or
so
what
for
matters to
example,
customers in that geography. Yes, go
okay,
on.
so for example, it's like, for Nigerians now, a lot of us relate to whatever is going to make us make money, whatever is going to make our
Hmm.
lives easier,
Yeah.
you know. And for example, in the US, people
Hmm.
already probably have easy lives, but they just need
Hmm.
something to like make it more efficient.
Hmm.
You understand? So
Hmm.
so that would mean that if you are creating content, maybe for like a POS machine, for example, we could
Hmm.
create content that okay, a POS machine basically can make you have a POS business as a Nigerian. You could basically reach out to people, you could make 15 naira on every transaction you make. But in the US, just advertising it as a efficient tool for supermarkets is enough for them to relate with. So I guess that means that content that Nigerians can relate to it is what you should push to Nigerians. Content that people in the US can relate to it is what you should push to the US people. Is that what it means?
Yes, that's what it means. It
Great,
has to
great.
be very relatable. Like else it won't make sense, right? And I want we all go behind things that we can relate to in different ways, right? And so your content and your marketing campaign should be very relatable, right? Like I should be able to see your content and marketing and maybe laugh because I know why you're saying that. And so if your influencer, if you decide to partner, doesn't have that context, then it's going to be a problem, right? Your competitors who are using relevant content to or context for their content would win in that context. Okay, so Azim, is that good? Is that good enough?
Yeah, very clear,
Okay,
very
cool.
clear.
Okay,
It's
cool.
very
All
new.
right.
It's new to me, so thank you very
Yeah,
much for
yeah, yeah.
that.
Cool. Yeah. So how do we measure success at scale, right? And so you have created your go to market performance based off understanding your market and developing your value proposition, and you've been able to identify how to make sure that your customers trust your product or your solution. You've been able to define how to scale it through social media or content campaigns, etc. But how do you measure success, right? How do you measure what you're doing, right? And there are key important things like measuring success is really critical, really critical to evaluating the effectiveness of uh, the go-to-market strategy for a product or solution or service that you're putting out there, right? So the first thing is you need to have um, key performance indicators, right? So some examples of key performance indicators could be your customer acquisition cost, right? How much are you paying to acquire the next customer? You've acquired, you know, you have a customer. How much does it cost to acquire the next customer, which is like your marginal cost, right? You have your fixed cost, which is like your your fixed assets, right? Your the cost you use to build the software, right? All of that, right? But for the next customer, how much would it cost you? What is the price of campaigns? What is the price of the marketing you're doing? What is the price of sales, right? All of that you need to be able to um, measure, right? What is the lifetime value of that customer? You acquire one customer, right? You need to be able to understand if this, of course, like the customer cannot pay for the cost of the service to them in 1 year, but if you have this customer for let's say 30 years, what is the lifetime value of that customer and how does it help accelerate sales for you? Conversion rates. How are you converting customers from let's say free trials to paid products or paid solutions? Because sometimes you need to give people the opportunity to try your products before they can actually pay for it. And then how much of your customers are being retained? Like They either come in as free users or they come in as paid users. Are they dropping off after a year? What is making them drop off? You need to be able to eventually be able to articulate all these KPIs and make sure you are measuring them. And so these metrics can help assess the efficiency of marketing efforts, the quality of customer engagement, and the sustainability of growth, right? So, secondly, you can also look at like some global performance insights. Some of these global performance indicators could include regional adoption rates. So maybe compared to if you compare your how well your product or solution or your service is doing to how well others competitors within your regional um so you've come out of like just your context, right? The context of your product and solutions for KPIs, and you've zoomed out a little bit more to compare that to what people within, let's say, Nigeria or like within West Africa or Africa or like globally doing. And so once you're able to compare that, you're able to say, hey, I'm doing better. I'm not doing great. And so I need to fix X and X to meet up what the regional average for some of these KPIs are, right? And so what are the regional adoption rates? What are the compliance costs? And these help provide insights into market specific challenges and opportunities that you can leverage to grow more sustainably. Um, the last thing would be the data-driven decision making, right? And so you need to be able to regularly analyze some of these metrics to support strategic planning, right? You are collecting all this data. How do you use it to make data-driven decision making to support your strategic planning and identify areas for continuous improvement because it's important. The last thing is the strategic roadmap and execution, right? And so the final step in scaling, sorry, I didn't move the slide. So the final step in scaling a go-to-market strategy involves, creating a strategic roadmap that outlines the key milestones, right? Customer responsibilities, stakeholder responsibilities, and the timeline. And this roadmap should include product launch phases, market entry strategies, right? And so you have your product, you have your service, or you have your solution. You need to have a launch phase, right? It's ready to go into the market. When do you want to launch it? When do you want to start doing your campaigns? Are there specific details you want to incorporate into your launch phase? Maybe your product is in a beta dog food phase, right? But you want to bring into the market because you want adoption to be fast. How long is it going to remain in that beta or dog food version? And when are you going to actually roll out the full, you know, um, usable or scalable version of it after you've been in the initial product phase? What are your market entry strategies, right? How are you going to allocate resources during your launch or your market or your marketing or your go to market scaling phase? And so those are really important. The second thing is how are you able to align with stakeholders? This is really crucial to ensure that cross-functional collaboration and accountability is being held onto. And so you could have multiple stakeholders. You could have regulators. You could customers definitely one of the stakeholders, but you could have regulators. You could have um, I'm trying to think about some other stakeholders for AI products or AI-led products aside regulators. You could have, like I mentioned earlier on, you have like some strategic partners. Those could also be one of your stakeholders, right? And so being aligned with your stakeholders is really crucial to ensure that there's cross-functional collaboration and accountability. And you need to be able to regularly check in, right, with performance reviews to help maintain momentum and address challenges effectively. The last thing is the clear call to action, right? So a clear call to action, such as initiating pilot programs or expanding into new regions, right? And so, what is your clear next step that you want to achieve, right? Is it putting out a pilot program for your product or your solution or your service? Or are you looking to expand into a new region after some time, right? And so having these well articulated helps provide direction and motivation. And so by formalizing the next steps and fostering a culture of like execution, you are really able to transform from planning all of these details for your go-to-market strategy to action, right? And so it moves from planning to action. Then helps you drive scalable success for your AI or AI-led solutions, products, and services. So yeah, I think I'm a minute beyond time, but I hope this was helpful.
Absolutely. I'm going to be very honest that I did learn a lot. I really did learn a lot of new strategies within marketing too. I
Yeah.
think the most interesting part for me was the localization part, which, to be honest, I mean, I'm part of a product that is being built, right? And I figure out that I think that's something that we've not been doing right,
Mm-hmm.
which is definitely what I'm taking out of this class. And I'm going
Yeah.
straight to my team to tell them, hey guys, I have a new knowledge for you guys, localization. So yeah, for me, I absolutely learned a lot. Thank you very much for the class. It was a very comprehensive one. So we have Adebayo, Esther, Godwin, Michael, Prime, Godwin. We had some people, during the middle of the class, but I guess they had to leave to join
Mm-hmm.
another one.
Session.
So yeah, so please let's know if you guys have any questions. If you have any question, you can just unmute your mic or raise up your hand. If I don't get anyone to do that, then maybe in the next 30 seconds, that will mean no one has a question. But if you do have, please feel free to say it. Godwin.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Godwin speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening,
Hi,
Godwin.
Gordon.
Yeah, it's been a very wonderful presentation, Mr. Cedric. Thank you very much. Though I've been on transit, I've been having network issue on this, so
That's fine.
I've been in and out of the session, but I've been following Dosha. But I think if I have any challenge in knowledge gap, I'll contact within the group on WhatsApp for full
Okay.
understanding. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Gordon.
Great. Thank you, Godwin. Esther, Adebayo, Michael, Prime. Godwin, Wisdom. Any questions from your hands?
No question, man, but it's been an insightful section, and especially the go-to-market conversation and discussion. It just aligns well with the upcoming visibility events happening, and I think it's very insightful. It's been an insightful session so far.
Great. Thank you for that as well. I appreciate the compliment. Um, in the absence of no questions, I think that takes this class to conclusion. Once again, Mr. Cedric, I appreciate your time and I appreciate the fact that you took a lot of you know sacrifice to put up this material. Thank you very much. Uh, Is this a material that is shareable or it's not?
I can send it to you. I can share it with you. I shared it
Okay,
with I shared it with Mujida.
Mujida, right? Okay, great. Then I would have it. I will get
Yeah.
it from her.
Okay.
All right then. Thank you,
Cool.
sir.
Thank you, Azim. Thank you, everyone. Nice to meet everyone, and hope you have a good time with the rest of the programming. Bye.
And you too. Bye.